What the hell was that? Also, he said something about wait another 1,000 years for your next summoner. That kind of sounds like he knows something about her whole thing. Kanon, his hatchet still held aloft, couldn't take another step after that. With a clang, the hatchet that he'd been grasping fell and rolled onto the floor. Rolled on the floor. And following that, with a pair of thuds, Kanon's knees hit, left then right. That hand, which looked like it was trying to catch the sky now that the hatchet had been dropped gradually. That hand, which looked like it was trying to catch the sky, now that the hatchet had been dropped, gradually lowered, landing on his chest. Then the other hand did the same. What the hell? Right there was a handle with a demonic design engraved in it. Is he dead now? Kanon looked down at his chest. The same type of weapon that had been stabbed into Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads was... No, not Kanon too! Kanon was curled up in anguish, fresh blood dribbling from the corner of his mouth. It was makeup too extreme for Kanon's white skin. Around this scene, the glittering gold butterflies danced through the darkness, mesmerizing. It was a beautiful, beautiful dance, a funeral march of tribute, ridicule, and contempt for a single boy's self-sacrifice. Kanon had already been prepared for his own death, but although he could do nothing but accept the death he had received, he attempted one last measure of resistance. He grasped the handle of the weapon, sticking into his chest with both hands, and gritting his teeth with an acute unearthly pain, he pulled it out. For only a moment, a bright red spray gushed out. It made an unpleasant bloop sound. It probably resembled the sound of Kanon's soul as it was sucked into the swamp of the dead. Kanon-san, couldn't you have hurried up a bit more? Someone, yeah. Kumasawa screamed at the incomprehensible sight in front of her. Kanon was lying in a pool of blood. Kumasawa's heart was a complete mess. Ah, what a horrible fate. He wouldn't have been killed if I had been with him. Oh, what incredible luck. If I had been with him, I might have been killed too. As she screamed, her expression was filled with complete confusion and all of the muscles of her face were pulled up, almost as though she was smiling while crying. But no one could have made fun of an expression like this. What is it, Kumasawa? Answer me, Kumasawa. The first one to dash in was Natsuhi, holding the rifle. Battler and Genji dashed in after her. Normally they probably would have started discussing the origin of that violent stench filling the boiler room. But after they saw Kanon, who was lying on the ground as if he were drowning in an ocean of his own blood, the stench wasn't important anymore. Kanon, answer me. Genji, bring Dr. Nanjo here. Natsuhi realized that even though Kanon was on the verge of death, he was still conscious, so she sent Genji to get the doctor. Natsuhi, holding the rifle aloft, faced the darkness in the center of the boiler room and shouted, Who is hiding over there? Come out quietly. If you don't come out from there, I'll shoot without mercy. We need light. Oh, Natsuhi, let's light them up. Bella, thinking quickly, took a large flashlight from the tool shelf alongside the door and used its light to cut through the darkness Natsuhi was glaring into, but the light only shone on mechanical-looking piping in a door. The door had been left open a small crack, and it was obvious that someone had left through there in a hurry. Oh, Natsuhi, where does that door go? Genji, where does that door lead to? The courtyard. Like hell I let you get away, you damn bastard. Betla let out a war cry as he slammed into the door. Cool air from outside suddenly rushed in. There were some thin, rough stairs leading up. Betla ran up them, shouting, Wait, Betla-kun, it's dangerous to be on your own right now. Natsuhi was also rushing up the stairs, chasing after Betler. They were in the courtyard. The courtyard of the mansion had been built strictly for lighting purposes, so it wasn't a very elegant place. Because it was surrounded on all sides, the air was calm and completely undisturbed, even though they could hear the sound of strong winds. There was only the gentle, sorrowful rain. As he ran through the cold and scattered raindrops, dashing up the stairs into the courtyard, Battler looked in every direction. Of course, the odds of him finding a suspicious silhouette just standing around nonchalantly were pretty much zero. Battler spun, looking all around. He turned again and again. He kept spinning until he almost lost his sense of direction. He prayed that he would see the culprit somewhere in the scenery, but there was no chance. All he saw as he spun was more and more of the mansion's heartless walls and windows. Furthermore, there were 2 entrances into the mansion from the courtyard, and neither of them were locked. Because the courtyard couldn't be entered from outside the mansion, the doors had been built without locks. He didn't know which one they had left through. He had to give up. Battler pounded the wall with his fist, swearing. "Battler-kun, you mustn't run ahead by yourself." "Battler-kun?" Battler pressed his forehead against the wall, which he scratched at with his fingernails as he cried. "Damn it, damn it, damn it." Oh, sorry. "Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi, and now Kanon-kun. You killed a full 6 people. And that wasn't enough, so you had to kill 3 more. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi were always kind and fun. I just met Kanon yesterday, but I'm sure I'd have gotten along fine with him. Why did you kill them? Why? You know when people die, they don't come back to life again, right? They aren't gonna quickly sprout up again like bamboo shots. Why did you kill them? Why? Battler was a boy who could understand the feelings of pain and regret in a person's heart, so he cried with all his strength. Natsuhi, who had always thought of Battler as a frank person, was a little surprised to find he had this delicate side, and at the same time she understood how easily hurt the heart of a young person could be, so she held him. "It's all right. I will definitely protect you, George-kun, Maria-chan, and Jessica. As a mother, and as the representative of the Yoshiromiya family." Battler, after sobbing into Natsuhi's chest for a while, wiped his tears with a bitter smile as though he had been like that the whole time, and tried to appear as though he'd cried more than enough already. "Anyway, let's go back for now. Protecting ourselves is the higher priority than finding the culprit. Tomorrow the boat will arrive. After that happens, the police will come and everything should be brought to light. There's no way the culprit can escape this island, no matter how much they struggle." That's right. When the police come. When the seagulls cry, the crime will be solved. But for some reason Battler felt a slight sense of uneasiness, as if the seagulls would never cry again. That couldn't be true. When the typhoon passes, surely the lively seagulls will return to the harbor again. I returned to the boiler room along with Aunt Natsui and told everyone weakly that we hadn't found anything. We heard that Dr. Nanjo and George Aniki had carried Kanon-kun to the servant room. The servant room had a first aid kit and a sink, and could apparently function as a nurse's office. Kumasawa-san and Jessica had accompanied them. Stains from Kanon-kun's blood remained on the floor. Judging by the large amount of blood lost and the ruthless shape of the weapon that had fallen carelessly to the ground, I figured that Dr. Nanjo's treatment would probably end in vain. That weapon was doubtlessly the same type that had been stuck in Aunt Aoife and Uncle Hideyoshi's foreheads. But wait, isn't the demonic design on the handle a little different? There seemed to be some small differences in that part. Still, as far as their overall shape was concerned, the weapons were all of the same type. Though it had seemed brutal, we left the weapons stuck into Aunt Aoife and Uncle Hideyoshi to preserve the crime scene. So this was the first time we were able to have a perfect view of the entire weapon. As we had expected, the weapon was not bladed like a knife, but shaped like an ice pick, or rather a thin stake. By the way, is it? Oh, it doesn't. I guess he's not dead yet, or at least it hasn't been updated yet. And It had a spiral-shaped pattern, sort of like a drill. It looked like something that might be driven into the hearts of human sacrifices in some demonic ritual. Including the handle, it was 25 centimeters long. Half of that was the stake-shaped part, which was stained with deep red blood. The length of the blood-stained part made it clear just how deeply it must have penetrated into Kanon-kun's chest. But odd, Natsuhi and the rest didn't even look at the weapon and instead stood in front of the incinerator where the horrible stench was emanating from. They must have dragged out that thing which had been burning in the furnace. It was still smoldering and kept sending out dense waves of that awfully unpleasant smell. Wouldn't it be amazing if that was Kinzo's corpse now? Genji-san and Maria stared down at it. Aunt Natsuhi probably couldn't stand to look directly at it. She kept shaking her head, her back to it. I thought nothing could surprise me after everything that's happened. Okay. Don't tell me I was right, but this is... I stood there for a while, moaning, with a rising urge to vomit. The true source of that unearthly stench was a scorched corpse that had been cooking inside the incinerator. The clothes, the surface of the body, and the hair were all hideously burned. That grotesque corpse was in a state where not the face, nor the age, nor even the gender could be guessed at. But when I thought about it calmly, I realized that a corpse appearing at this time could only be one person. It was grandfather who had disappeared that morning and whose whereabouts had been unknown. I was just joking, but apparently that's what we're getting now. I believe it is most likely the master. I agree that he would pass away in such a state. It's heart-rending. But is there any proof that this corpse really is grandfather? It's burned so black you can't even tell what sex it is. Patla-kun, look at the feet. Oh, Natsuhi, with her handkerchief over her mouth and her eyes averted, pointed and told me to look at the burnt corpse's feet. Huh? Oh, well, he has 6 toes on each foot? What the hell, is he an X-Man? Notice how there are 6 toes on each foot. Huh? Oh, you're right. Just as Genji-san had said, there were 6 toes on each foot. Each individual toe had looked so normal in its line that I hadn't noticed. The master was born with 6 toes on both of his feet. Consequently, the master was entrusted with the revival of the Ushinomiya family. Yeah? Why? I have heard that since long ago, cases of polydactyly were common in the Ushinomiya family. It's probably hereditary. Polydactyly literally means many fingers. Because of a little mistake by God, when the person is born, one of their toes or fingers splits into 2 and the total number increases. But a big deal isn't usually made of polydactyly in the world at large. That's because it isn't a disease, just something people are born with. So while they are still babies, at about the time they turn 1 year old, they can be taken to the hospital and given surgery to make them normal. It's pretty common. 1 out of 500 births, according to Wikipedia, says Sikawa Sapphire in the chat. For those who can't see the chat and are wondering why I'm saying that all of a sudden. I didn't know that. I don't think I've ever met anybody with that. But then again, have I met 500 people? That's an interesting question, actually. If you think about from the moment you were born until right now, how many people have you met? Would that be 500? Still, oh. Anyway, that's not really the topic right now. But yeah, okay, that's not as uncommon as I thought. Even a child with polydactyly can be treated before they become aware, so they might not even remember it themselves. By the way, it seems that there's a possibility for this to occur in 1 out of every 2,000 babies. Well, we just learned that's wrong. So even though it's not usually seen, it isn't that rare at all. Get your numbers right, game. Speaking of which, I think Uncle Hideyoshi mentioned something to me long ago. Something about how even Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who unified Japan at the end of the Sengoku period, had 6 fingers on one hand. Then again, the number might be different if you just focus on Japan. Like maybe each country is surely going to have different statistics of how many people are born with that. So maybe it's 1,000 in Japan. Was it 1,000? 2,000. According to Onatsui, among the many Ushiromiya family heads, the ones most praised for their wisdom all had polydactyly. Because of that, when grandfather was born, his relatives were all excited at the thought that he might become an otherwise leader. And when the leading relatives all died in the Great Kanto earthquake, it was apparently argued that grandfather should be the one to restore the family because of the auspicious sign of his birth. If grandfather hadn't disliked his position as the head so much, this 6th toe probably would have been pretty lucky for him. Oh, so he didn't actually like his position. Didn't know that. I thought he was happy about it. Was that mentioned before? That he disliked his position as the head? Huh. Not sure. Come to think of it, I've heard about some country where it's believed people with polydactyly should be treated as gods and revered. This is beside the point, but is fairly common in mystery novels for a corpse to be burned to hide its identity. But I guess that in grandfather's case, just toasting him wouldn't be enough. So does that mean... I heard the song, by the way. Does that mean whoever burned him didn't know this? Or does that mean whoever burned him wanted us to know that it's him? Like whoever burned him did know this and chose burning him so we would still be able to know it was him. I don't know. Then again, the timing would have to be perfect. Like if you wanted us... If he or she or it wanted us to find him, the timing would have to be very... well timed, because if we only find him next morning, then there's not going to be shit left. It's just going to be ashes and bones. Though I guess maybe I guess you would find 6 toe bones, maybe, but like they would be probably scattered more. Yeah, I don't think you would be able to tell it's him if you wait too long. So maybe whoever did this, if they wanted us to know it's grandfather, they timed it very well, or maybe they didn't want us to know. We just got lucky. And grandfather's body was not simply burned. It was just like Aunt Aoife and Uncle Hideyoshi, and the thing that had been stabbed into Kanon-kun's chest. What? He's got one too? One of those demon's ice picks was stuck into his forehead. Huh. Toe bones made you think of Toblerone. Well, that's a weird connection to make. I mean, I get it. It's because of the phonetic similarity if you say it like that. But now you will always think of toe bones when you eat Toblerone for the rest of your life, so enjoy that. The head's ring is not on his finger. So the letter last night was telling the truth. Father would probably be horribly disappointed. Yeah, I mean, he bet everything, and apparently he lost. Natsuhi-san let her head droop and closed her eyes tightly. This room had also become a vital crime scene for us to hand over to the police. How many more are there? The police is going to be like, what the fuck did you guys do here? It was decided that we would leave grandfather's corpse here and lock the room, sealing it. It isn't clear when grandfather's corpse started burning in the incinerator. Since, according to Genji, the strength of the flames hadn't been that strong, the body must have started burning a long time ago. So that stench could slowly creep out of the furnace and fill the room bit by bit, eventually pouring out and climbing up the staircase. Putting aside whether he was rare or well done, that's the last thing I would expect you to talk about, but okay. Grandfather had been brought out, killed, and burned, even though he had started out locked away in the closed room created by his auto-lock. There's probably no doubting this. However, according to Genji-san, the boiler room is usually locked. What the hell? Even more locked rooms. The possibility that someone outside our group had snuck in and committed the crime was overwhelmingly high, and there was also a good chance that this person was walking around with something like a master key. So, like, suspicion will probably fall on Natsuhi even more now. Then again, the closed room thing with Aoife and Hideyoshi, suspicion falls on no one there because it seems impossible. But here, I don't know. After all, the doors and windows throughout the mansion had been checked, but despite that, the culprit was able to strut around the mansion freely. Sorry. Does this crime confirm that a 19th person exists? There is still that contradiction, since they're trying to tout their existence without ever showing themselves once. Along with Kiryu-san's chessboard theory, I've been using this contradiction to deny the existence of a 19th person. By spinning the chessboard around once more, the very fact that this crime makes it perfectly obvious that a 19th person exists means that the existence of the 19th person is even less plausible, as long as that 19th person doesn't show themselves in front of us. If the culprit could get grandfather out through the door sealed by the receipt, if they could kill Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi from the other side of a door sealed by a chain, then could they possibly go so far as to create a fictional 19th person through strange tricks and devices? If we still want to believe that the culprit is among the 18, then the list of suspects has grown very short. The four of us kids, Aunt Natsuhi, Genji-san, Kumasawa-ba-chan, and Dr. Nanjo. Well, or Maria. One of these people has to be the culprit. Wait, we can't be sure of that. Just a second ago we started doubting whether the corpse here was actually grandfather's, right? Maybe we can think of the other bodies in the same way. For example, the first 6 all had their faces horribly smashed. Some of the bodies had kept enough of their faces for us to confirm who they were, but that old bastard, for example, had lost his entire face, as though the whole thing had been neatly peeled off. We only figured out which body was which by their clothes and surroundings. Did the culprit prepare a fake body beforehand and alter it to make it look like they died, even though they were actually hiding somewhere after committing the crime? I mean, at this point, everything might be possible. Also, I wanted to check this. Holy shit, burned in the incinerator with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his forehead. The old sorcerer's wish vanished before it could be granted. He always knew that this was one possible result of his risky gamble. No. It may sound ridiculous, but it wouldn't be an impossible trick to pull off. It's too early to give in to this 19th person. No, this witch. Maria-chan, you mustn't stare so fixedly anymore. Come on, Battler-kun, too. I'm worried about Kanon's condition, and we mustn't remain in a place like this any longer than necessary. Let us return. There was no magic circle this time. Maria didn't go out with everyone else, but remained in the boiler room. The thing she was staring so fixedly at probably wasn't grandfather's body, but the demon's ice pick sticking out of his forehead. It was probably the sort of item that an enthusiast couldn't bear to ignore. I tapped her on the head. Hey Maria, what's Beatrice after? Is it all of our lives? Beatrice will revive very soon. At that time, none shall be left alive. Well, that's nothing to look forward to. How can you laugh at something like that? Do you think you're the only one who's safe? Why don't you feel like you're in danger? Why aren't you scared? Beatrice made a promise. She said she's gonna take me to the Golden Land. It's a wonderful place where you have no obligations, everyone's always together, and everyone is always nice to everyone else. I'm looking forward to it. The time will come very soon now. Just what kind of person is Maria? I only know what Maria was like 6 years ago, when she was 3. Huh. She was once pure and obedient, a good kid. This new Maria 6 years later and the Maria I knew didn't seem to fit together. Just who is she, this witch who calls herself Maria? To Maria, who obstinately believes in the witch, this series of unsolvable crimes is proof that the witch actually exists. Every time something occurs that will be difficult for a human, it becomes a little harder for the rest of us to not believe in Beatrice. It must be an intense pleasure for Maria to see her relatives who once firmly denied the witch's existence start acknowledging that witch's existence one by one. Is that why she's in high spirits? That song is very cool, by the way. Maria, let me ask this one more time. You'll probably answer the same anyway, but I'll ask just once more. Yesterday, you were given a letter in the rose garden. Who gave it to you?
Like I said, Beatrice. Battler still doesn't believe.
Maria only repeated what she had already said. Maria met with the 19th person, the witch. Was that really a 19th person, or did one of the 18 just get her to say that? All that's certain is that Maria has been with the rest of us constantly, has always had an alibi, and hasn't done anything suspicious. She's simply overjoyed at being made Beatrice's messenger, and certainly isn't the 19th person. Supposedly. That's right. I wonder what's written in the letter we picked up in Hondifa and Uncle Hideyoshi's room. Oh, Natsuhi should still have it with her. Well, wouldn't that be a nice cliffhanger? Just as I say it. Well then, I guess I know what we're gonna read on Sunday, right? Now everybody's probably gonna kill me. The timing was just too perfect. Oh, come on. Now something sad like this. That's not how I wanted to end this. In the end, Kanon-kun did not regain consciousness. Oh. I mean, I could go a bit longer, but I don't know if there comes another point that's as good for stopping as this. Found in the boiler room with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his chest. How presumptuous of lowly furniture like that. Well, I guess I can go a bit longer. Maybe 10:30. In the end, Kanon-kun did not regain consciousness, even though Dr. Nanjo and the rest did all they could to heal him. Of course, there was very little that could be done on an island like this without medicine or proper facilities. However, Kanon was the only human ever to confront the culprit. If only he could give us some kind of clue. However, at the time they carried Kanon away, it was already too late.
My sincere apologies. Without proper facilities, there was nothing I could do about such a serious wound. No, that's perfectly understandable. Thank you so much for giving it your very best.
Dr. Nanjo's shirt had been sprayed by a violent spurt of blood, so it was easy to imagine the devotion with which he had tried to save Kanon's life up until the last second. Jessica was crouched in the corridor, crying softly. She had probably been taking care of Kanon-kun until the moment of his death. After this, everybody probably needs a lot of therapy. George Aniki tried to approach her with words of comfort, but when Jessica pushed him away, he stopped trying to force her to talk and left her alone.
If only I hadn't let Kanon-san go alone. Oh.
Do not let that bother you.
If you had been with him, you would probably have been attacked as well. He foolishly rushed on ahead and paid for his mistake. How can you say it like that? Kanon-kun spotted the culprit and bravely stood up to them. If only Kumasawa-san had gone with them, the culprit might have hesitated and chosen to run away.
Emotion-filled words that I never thought I'd hear coming from Jessica's mouth tumbled out. Kumasawa, looking truly sorry, could do nothing but hang her head. Jessica, you shouldn't talk to her now. It's the same for me and probably you as well, right, Battler-kun? We don't know what's going on and it feels like our hearts are going to split open. There were tears in George Aniki's eyes again. Seeing Jessica break down crying probably brought back the pain of losing his parents. I had done my crying all at once, so I didn't feel like crying anymore. Well, you said that last time as well. However, I understood how great the pain in their hearts was.
It's okay, Jessica. You'll be able to meet Kanon again soon. When you're dead too.
Yeah, I don't know, that's not really reassuring coming from you.
Stop it. I don't need you trying to console me like that.
Well,
Beatrice will resurrect the dead and even love that has been lost. So you'll definitely be able to meet him soon. then everyone will be able to live in peace.
She starts sounding like my Monokuma voice.
So the one who killed Kanon-kun is this Beatrice who supposedly gave you that letter yesterday? Where is she? Where is she hiding? I'll find her and tear her apart. Tell me, you know who the culprit really is, don't you? What do you know and what are you hiding? Tell me, damn it.
Milady.
Please stop. Beatrice exists. Damn it, let go of me, Genji-san. Maria knows who the culprit is, and she's hiding their identity even though she knows. She must be telling them what we're doing, guiding them as they kill us.
Jessica, be silent. Jessica grabbed at Maria. Genji tried to stop her, but Jessica could not be calmed. The next thing I heard was the sound of Onnatsuhi slapping Jessica's face. After that, only Jessica's sorrowful, sobbing voice resounded throughout the hall. Maria-chan, I know there's no way you're the culprit. You've been with us since the beginning, and there was no time for you to communicate with any culprit. So I want you to tell me something. This Beatrice who handed you the letter yesterday, who was she? Although those words seemed kind, they clearly showed that George still had some remaining doubts about Maria. He didn't actually grab at her. However, he felt exactly the same way Jessica did. Aniki, I already asked her the same thing a second ago. Her answer was the same as before. I want to hear it from Maria's mouth. Who is Beatrice?
Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe anyway.
What do you mean by that? Could it be the culprit someone we know well, and you're keeping silent because you're covering for them for some reason? Who gave you that letter?
I got it from Beatrice. I'll say it no matter how many times you ask. I got the letter from Beatrice. Jojo-san, do you refuse to believe in Beatrice because she's not an opponent you can hit? You want to turn your feelings of helplessness into violence and beat someone up? So, you won't be satisfied unless your opponent is a human you can hit. So even if I tell you the truth, you won't accept it. So it's pointless for me to tell you. You won't believe. But I'll keep on saying it because it's true. Beatrice exists. The door to the Golden Land will soon be opened. I go there. Beatrice promised. In that world, Mama is nice, Papa is with us, and is also nice. I want to go there right away. Everyone is afraid of Beatrice, but that's only natural, so calm yourselves. Beatrice said so herself. By the time the typhoon has passed, I'll have ended everything, she said.
Oh shit.
Ouch.
Maria. I don't mind you being talkative, but let's leave it at that for now. I'll bet this is all a pretty happy situation for you since you're always going on about how witches exist, but keep that to yourself for now. Don't try to force that on other people.
I know I've been creeped out by this girl for a while now, but there really is something wrong with her. Don't you think so too, Battler? Genji-san? Kumasawa-san? What about you, Mom? Maria knows who the culprit is and she's hiding it. Okay, maybe she hasn't done anything directly, but she's definitely working with the criminal. That's right, she's a spy. We can't let her stay with us any longer.
Maria-chan, you must realize there are times when indiscreet discussion is best avoided. If you keep adding oil to the fire, even I will get very angry. Oh shit, you don't want to see that. Natsuhi glared at Maria with frightening eyes. And a fucking shotgun in her hand. Maria was used to Aunt Rosa's loud style of scolding, but she apparently hadn't built up a resistance to Aunt Natsuhi's quiet sort of scolding. She shrugged and kept her mouth shut. A desolate feeling filled the room. It felt as though things would just get more complicated if anyone spoke. How many people have already died? 6 people in Dad's group. After that, both Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi, Kanon-kun, grandfather. Yeah, man, we're really, like... we're dialing up the body count here. I mean, maybe not the body count, but the times somebody gets killed. Like, time before last time, it was just one big murder, and now we have one murder, and then another person gets killed, and then another body is found. Rokkenjima evil with Natsuhi with a shotgun. Rokkenjima evil. Yeah. I would like to have a game. Well, I was just about to say I would like to have a game that is creepy and takes place in a mansion, but guess what? That's Resident Evil. I should say I like playing games like that, so I don't mind if there were more. There were a whole 18 people on this island, supposedly, and 10 of those people have been killed. Yeah, it's true. I mean, we're not many left. What does the thing say again? Those who remain shall praise my noble name. Well, I can't see many praising Beatrice's name anytime soon, apart from Maria. Then gouge the head and kill. So, like, that sounds like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more people will get killed. There's not many left, right? I mean, I could imagine Genji and Kumasawa go next, and maybe the doctor, because the children feel like they're like the main characters. Then again, there are more than enough games that outright kill one of the main characters. Like, not at the end, but rather early. But if we say that at least 5 more die, and we say the servants are the first to go, and the doctor, there would still be 2, or at least 1 of the children who's going to die. Not looking forward to that. There's more than half of us, and right now there's absolutely no proof that the remaining 8 people will be safe. Yeah, according to the epitaph, they probably won't.
At any rate, this is no time to quarrel, so I just brought my rifle again. Now that we are certain the culprit can enter and leave the mansion at will and strike out of nowhere, we must give our undivided attention to surviving until tomorrow.
I agree strongly with Natsuhi. We can figure out who the culprit is at our leisure tonight. For now, though, we're better off finding a place to barricade ourselves in. Hey, the letter. Hello? The letter? As I said this, I pointed out the clock to everyone. It was already 8 o'clock at night. We had been receiving shocks over and over again since the early morning, and our bodies and minds were both completely tired out. You also didn't have dinner, did you? There's still a long, long time until tomorrow. We needed to find some place to barricade ourselves in so we could rest our bodies and get even the smallest amount of relief.
I agree. Everyone is already pushing their mental and physical limits, myself included. I believe it would be wise to take that into account as we move forward.
That's right. There's a high probability that the enemy's got the equivalent of a master key.
Wushanen Kanon kunnen Godason holding master keys. Yes, they were supposed to have them on their person during work.
We didn't want to disturb the scene, so we didn't investigate that closely. We can't eliminate the possibility that someone stole a key from them.
In the first place, we know the culprit may have visited the servant room at some point to unlock the garden shed shutter.
True, I guess they're trying to find a safe spot first and then read it.
It's conceivable that they obtained a master key from there earlier on.
There were many servants serving the Rishidomiya family. Because of that, there were several master keys. Furthermore, every time one employee started or finished working, the keys were passed between servants, and we had to acknowledge that this had probably gotten a bit sloppy at times in the past. Even if they borrowed a bundle of keys from the pockets of one of the murdered servants, is there any safe place that even those keys couldn't open?
Because of the nature of our job, we have been entrusted with keys to all of the rooms, all of them in the mansion and in the guest house.
What about the grandfather's study?
So in other words, no matter where we hole up and lock ourselves in, it'd just be pointless.
Didn't Kinzo's study have a particular lock that only Genji had the key to? Couldn't we use that?
Fine, who cares about locking up? If you're gonna come, bring it on, damn it. I'll beat you at your own game.
The enemy won't approach us from the front. I don't know about the first 6, but if you look at what happened to my parents and Kanonkun, and even grandfather, the enemy has only gone after isolated people. They don't have the power to assault all of us openly in a secure room. Yeah, that does raise the question what happened with the first 6 though. But I mean, he mentioned that himself. That's right, it's just like Aniki says. And maybe Natsuhi's rifle can serve as a deterrent to stop them from attacking.
I hope that is so, but...
Maria, I know you want to say something, but keep it to yourself and stay quiet for a while. Maria probably wanted to say something about how witches weren't afraid of things like guns, but if she were to say it out loud, the atmosphere around here would start to get pretty edgy. Again, I had noticed and decided to put a stop to it.
If I may, I do know of just one place that cannot be entered even with the servant key rings.
Where is that?
That would be the master's study.
I knew it.
I'm against this. I don't even want to think about going in grandfather's creepy room.
How many keys can gain access to that room?
There are 2. I always have one on my person. The other was held by the master himself, but just now I found this on the corpse in the boiler room.
Genji-san took a handkerchief out of his pocket and opened it, showing us the burned and filthy study key. Then he showed it alongside his own key, which he had once lent to Natsuhi. Well, I mean, you can copy a key in no time, so I wouldn't bet on that to be enough to be safe.
Normally it would have been proper to leave the master's key for the police, but because of the master's orders to protect the safety of the study, I borrowed it for the time being. I see, which means that Kinzo-san's study is the only place where we can be safe. It would appear that way. I don't even want to think about being shut up in that strange room all night, but it appears we must acknowledge that his room is safer than anywhere else right now.
Even though grandfather locked himself up in that safe room, the culprit brought him out and killed him. We can't be certain that it's truly safe. According to your theory, grandfather cleverly found a way around that receipt trick and left the room of his own free will. If so, the room might be a good place to barricade ourselves in after all. You're too optimistic, Aniki. However, at the same time, I thought he brought up a pretty interesting point. After all, this gives us a chance to question the enemy, the witch herself, about how the steel door had been opened. If we assume the culprit used some technique to kidnap grandfather from his study, they would have to show us the same trick again if they wanted to assault us in the study. And that would give us a chance to make the culprit prove how they did it right before our eyes. If she's really a witch, we'll be forcing her to use her little magic trick to open the door right in front of us. But that's probably impossible. If you spin the chessboard around, it's obvious the culprit is acting in a way that will make us think they're a witch. If she really is a witch, all she's got to do is appear in front of us and wow us with a colorful display of magic. Since she's avoided doing that, everything must be the work of a fake witch who wants us to think she's real. Therefore, a culprit who used a technique other than magic to defeat the closed room couldn't open the door before our eyes. Is grandfather's room big enough to stuff 8 people in?
Yes, there is a bed, a sofa and blankets, so while it does not luxurious, it will be more than suitable for spending the night. There's also a sink, a bathroom, a refrigerator, and a liquor cabinet.
Okay. Whoa, that's incredible. But isn't that weird? You're saying he built another house inside his house? That's pretty cramped for the last house of someone like your grandfather who bought a whole island and realized all of his dreams.
That's right. After some point in time, father probably couldn't feel at peace in any other place, even inside the mansion.
We always sneer about how he shut himself up in there, and this time we're the ones who are going to shut ourselves up. Huh. Jessica spat the words out.
Jessica, John, it sounds like you'd rather go search for the culprit than stay shut up somewhere.
Of course, I don't think we'll be able to find them if we just start searching on our own. In the end, we can't do anything but wait. Then it doesn't matter where we wait, does it? I'm not going to run away or hide. Why don't we just take it easy in the parlor, watching TV or something, while we wait for this Beatrice-sama to appear?
It's perfectly fine if she doesn't appear. There's no need for us to be the ones who expose the culprit. Well said. We shouldn't take needless. We shouldn't take needles. We shouldn't take needless risks before the police arrive. Thank you, Dr. Nanjo. I think we should move to Father's study. True, we have no proof that it's safe since Father was taken out of there. However, I can't deny the possibility that, as Battlecon reasoned, Grandfather left the study of his own accord and was attacked outside.
Okay. A while back, I proposed that strange theory as a stopgap measure, but just as Aunt Eva said, even though the trick would be possible, I couldn't explain what motive could have made Grandfather sneak out of his own study in such a troublesome way. Plus, Grandfather couldn't even have used the trick unless he knew that the receipt was wedged in the door. Aunt Eva hadn't pointed out that last part, but it's clear how absurd the theory was. So does that mean the sealed door formed a closed room, just as Aunt Eva claimed? Is it an undeniable fact that Aunt Natsuhi was the culprit? If Aunt Eva were here now, she'd probably make that claim openly and blow my strange theory away. But anyway, I had to admit that a room with both a bed and a toilet that all 8 people could be shut up in, and with only 2 keys, both of which were gathered here, had to be the safest place in the mansion right now. At the very least, I figured this would be better than just staying shut up in the parlor and hoping nothing would go wrong. But wait, have we been safe only because we've been shut up in the parlor? What if leaving that room and moving to an unexplored location is actually more dangerous? It's useless, it's all useless. What does he say in Japanese? Because he keeps saying that a lot. Mudara, okay. So that's his catchphrase. My flimsy head is about to break out in a fever. If I keep spinning the chessboard around, right and wrong will keep switching places over and over, and I won't be able to believe anything. When it seems like the culprit is one of the 18, I want to believe in Beatrice. And once I start believing in Beatrice, I start wanting to find the culprit amid the 18. If that keeps spinning around forever, in the end my thoughts won't have taken one step from where they started. Oh, it was Dame, sorry. Dameda. So he always says Dameda, Dameda, Zenzen, Dameda. Uda. How far back in the past was it that Curious-san taught me about chessboard thinking? That concept of examining the situation by spinning it around and thinking from the enemy's side. I seem to remember being so interested by it back then. I used it to guide all my thinking. By the way, Curious-san was Dad's co-worker back then. I never dreamed that she'd someday be added to our family. Or be murdered brutally. Okay. Didn't Curious-san tell me something once? I guess that might be a good stopping point now. It sounds like he's gonna start something new. Anyway, I'm gonna save at least. I get the feeling she once said that while this chessboard thinking was one way to look at things, it certainly wasn't all powerful. Or I guess I'm gonna continue a bit more, and it wouldn't be good to rely on it too much. Chessboard thinking is my own interpretation of something called game theory, which I read about in a book long ago. It's a very interesting subject, so you should tackle it yourself when you get into college, Battlecon. I really want to try it. If I could study and perfect my chessboard thinking, it'd be fun to be able to read into any opponent's moves, wouldn't it? But you can't believe in it blindly. Game theory is a very deep and complicated subject. Chessboard thinking is just my interpretation that skims the surface of game theory. In order to thoroughly read your opponent's moves like you're imagining, you need to study your opponent. Additionally, while chessboard theory is convenient and practical, it isn't perfect. It has many weak points despite its convenience. Weak points? Yes, chessboard thinking is founded upon game theory. When you thoroughly investigate game theory, it boils down to math. Do you know what the weak point of math is? It's noise. What do you mean by that? In math, when you write 1 + 1 = 2, that process will always result in 1 + 1 = 2 no matter how many billions of years pass. Nothing more, nothing less. It's because there's absolutely no noise mixed in. But for example, unlike math, the Japanese language has noise mixed in. What? Oh, kanji are a good example, I see. Old kanji and new kanji are slightly different, which represents an introduction of noise created by the changes between time periods. Isn't history the same? There are dozens of policies that seem foolish in the modern era, but were meaningful at some point in the past. Because the rules of chess are fixed, when a pair of experts are discussing one particular layout, it's possible they could reach the same conclusions whether they're from 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future. However, if the rules of chess had gone through massive changes over time, it's possible that a discussion about the same layout would have changed as well. That's right. Events in the world of humans are normally full of noise. Aren't human emotions that way? Even if the exact same thing occurs more than once, there's no guarantee that humans will always act in a predictable fashion. The moment we try to use a math-based theory to predict someone's actions, we must be aware that our theory has built-in weaknesses and limits. Simply put, chessboard thinking is extremely weak against noise and fickleness, as well as mistakes or incorrect knowledge. Yeah, that's right. Curious-san definitely said that. Chess has always been a game where both sides play by the same rules and fight with the same conditions for victory. That's why it's possible for both sides to predict the other's moves. It's possible to read your opponent because you can always suppose they'll make the best moves they can find. But what if your opponent is fickle or a bit tired and makes a move that can hardly be called the best? Or what if this game actually has a special rule, some unknown thing that only the enemy knows about and can use? In fact, what if the opponent actually has some goal other than victory? Think from your enemy's perspective. That's the basis of chessboard thinking, which means if you misread your enemy, the answer you draw from this process will be complete rubbish, useless. So far I've used chessboard theory to guess several vague bits of information about the culprit hiding behind this case, or so I think. However, I don't know anything about the culprit. Am I just playing around in a labyrinth of thought? If Kirya-san were here at a time like this, she'd probably be able to notice something with her much sharper thinking ability. But sadly, she lies in the shed with her face mutilated, so not gonna happen. Until the very last moment, Jessica resisted moving into grandfather's study, but in the end, Natsuhi persisted, and we decided to move there. Everyone was completely wrapped in paranoia by now, understandably so. Kumasawa-san had prepared dinner at one point, but during the time we were discovering the death of George Aniki's parents, both the kitchen and the parlor had been left empty. Someone suggested that the food might have been poisoned while we were gone. True that. Because of that, we were unable to even touch the food that Kumasawa-san had taken the trouble to make for us. Okay, Duncan. The manner in which the first 6 were killed was still unknown, but it certainly could have been poison. Certainly that would allow even a single person to carry out the murder of 6 large adults. Maybe it was Goda, and he's not actually dead. What? Was his entire face mutilated? It was. Maybe he switched with another buddy. Who knows? Furthermore, this idea made it easy to imagine there being only a single culprit, one who'd be afraid of Natsuhi's rifle, and this was very good for our emotional stability. But the fatigue and hunger were even harsher than we'd imagined. Then Kumasawa-san made a proposal and we all went together to the kitchen. There we gathered some canned food and other things that would be hard to poison to take in with us. All of Kumasawa-san's efforts to reward us with just a little dinner on this savage day regrettably came to nothing. The food piled up on the serving cart looked just a little sad. We all started climbing the stairs. And this is as proposed by the chat. By very helpful King Cobra. This is where we will save and stop for today. And then, well, this time is not, the next session is not that far away. The next session will be on the 1st of March, this Sunday.